So did you ever use class components? You remember set state? Well, if you haven't used class components, when you called this.setState, you'd call it with an object because your state was managed as an object, and you could call it with any number of properties that were in your state, and only those properties would get updated. So we're going to simulate that same behavior in our case. So let me copy this, and we're going to change our reducer to support this API. So let's take a look at this. We've got our count reducer still, and we've got the state and set state now. And now instead of just a number, our state is going to be an object with a count property. And then we pluck that count property off of our state right here. And our increment function is going to call set state with an object defining the state properties that we want to have updated. In our case, that's just count. And we're going to take that count, we're going to increment it by that step, which will ultimately trigger a re-render. So how do we modify our count reducer here so that it supports this API? Well, we're no longer accepting the count by itself. Now this is going to be an object that has a count as a property. So I'm going to call that object state. And then the change now is no longer the change for how much the count should be incremented by, but instead it's something more like the new state. Technically, it's referred to as an action. So then what we need to do is take that existing state that we have and combine it with the action, which is the value that's passed to our dispatch function here. And that'll get us our new state, and then we return that value. So what I'm going to do is we'll just return an object that is a combination of that state and that action. So any properties the action has will override the properties in the state, and that will simulate our state and set state from our good old class components. Ta-da! So in review, what we did here is we changed our state from a number to an object that has a number as a property. And then we plucked that property off. We updated our increment function, and we call set state with an object that has a property for the value that we want to have updated. And then our count reducer was updated to accept the whole state object and the updated version of that state object, and we merge these two things together to get our new state values.